Hi, everyone. I'm coming to you from the Japanese American Museum of Oregon in Portland, Oregon. My name is Chisao Hata, and I'm the creative director of the Living Arts program here. We'd like to thank the Tadaima organizers for this year's virtual pilgrimage. And please, all of you that are here today, check out some of the wonderful offerings that there have been, the diverse topics. You'll learn a lot, you'll be inspired, and share the Tadaima information with others that you know. So we are truly an important time in history. We've gone through COVID, we've gone through the pandemic, we've gone through a period of racial reckoning, and it's a time for us to uplift the histories that are represented not only in monuments, but throughout time. But we're going to look at some of the monuments today, some of the history of the Japanese Americans during World War II. This history that we discuss today will be focused on the World War II incarceration and our experience that happened over a 3 to 5 year period. And we just want to thank you all for joining us today. And I want to really thank the presenters that are joining us today. We have several people that are representing different assembly centers and also a heritage park. There are the Tanforan Memorial, represented by Doug Yamamoto. He's the president of the Tanforan Committee, responsible for building the Tanforan Memorial in San Bruno, California. And it's located at the site of the former Tanforan Racetrack and Detention Center during World War II. The Hayward Heritage Center, the Hayward Heritage Plaza is represented by Robin Kawabata. And Robin was the project co-lead for the Watkins Street Japanese American Memorial markers that describe the Japanese American 20th century experience, and project lead for the Hayward Historical Plaza, the Japanese American Memorial Art Sculpture, which commemorates where the Japanese Americans in the area were forced to leave their homes and boarded buses for the detention center in 1942 in the Tanforan Assembly Center. Robin is a board member of the Eden Township JCL, the Eden Township Community Center, and on the planning committee for the Eden Japanese Senior Center, which holds bi-monthly gatherings, all of which are located in San Lorenzo, California. The Puyallup Assembly Center is represented by Eileen Yamada Lamphir. She's Sansei, born, raised, and still living in Kent, Washington, which is about 20 miles south of Seattle. She currently is the president of the Puyallup Valley chapter of the JCL, which serves a large portion of South Puget Sound area in North Pierce County. She was retired after 35 years as an educator in the Kent School District and now serves as a guest speaker for local middle and high schools about the incarceration experience. We also welcome Steve Sue, who represents the Stockton Assembly Center. He's currently the president of the Japanese American Citizens League, the Stockton chapter, and committee member working on the Stockton Assembly Center project. First, we'd like to show you a map of the 13 Assembly Center sites that existed during World War II as a result of the Executive Order 9066. But we'll be talking about 5 locations, which include 4 of the Assembly Centers and 1 of a demarcation point. So first, I'd like to ask Doug Yamamoto to talk to us and share with us his knowledge and energy with the Tanforan Memorial. Doug?
Thank you for the invitation to speak on the Tanforan Memorial in this important recognition of the work that's being done to not only remember, but to bring forward the experiences and the injustices that happened 75 years ago into the future to live on as a reminder for future generations never to let anything like what happened to the Japanese Americans happen again to anyone for any reason. That was one of the motivations for our committee to start something at Tanforan. Tanforan was located at the original Tanforan racetrack in San Bruno, California. You might be familiar with Seabiscuit. Well, that's where Seabiscuit had a bunch of success. So in fact, there was a statue of Seabiscuit outside the shopping center, which the racetrack later became. But in April of 1942, the Tanforan Detention Center opened up for nearly 8,000 Japanese Americans living in San Mateo County, San Francisco County, Alameda County, Contra Costa County, for the most part. And whole families were shipped there, including babies taken from hospitals who were sick. There was not enough living space to accommodate 8,000 people. So families were forced to live in horse stalls that were recently vacated by their previous residents. And one of the things that the committee came across when we first started our efforts to build a memorial was that when we talked to survivors, the first thing they said was the smell. They always remembered the smell of the horse stalls. That was something that they immediately associated with Tanforan. So after the Tanforan closed, it would close in middle of October 1942. The majority of the incarcerees were all shipped by train to a Topaz concentration camp in the middle of the Utah desert. Back in 2012, the committee approached the BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit District Board of Directors meeting to see if they would like to sponsor a photo exhibit of Dorothea Lange and Paul Kitagaki Jr. photos of taken residents of Tanforan, people going on their way over. And the BART board approved it. We had an exhibit photos there for 10 years, and out of that developed the idea to create something more permanent, which was this Tanforan Memorial. And so with the great support of the BART Board of Directors and BART staff, and eventually with the support of the National Park Service, we began this journey to establish a permanent memorial. We'd like to mention RHAA, our landscape architects, who came on board 2 years after we started and were on board all the way through for 8 years. We needed to find a landscape architect to satisfy one of the conditions for a National Park Service grant. And They approached us as if we were a client and presented us with a multicolor 70-page proposal to do our memorial. And they included in the proposal was they would like to do the entire project pro bono in honor of their 3 Japanese American founding partners. So we were very, very more than pleased to accept their help. So along with the National Park Service grant, well, the National Park Service, who gave us a grant through their Japanese American confinement site program, County of San Mateo, who gave us a large grant, San Bruno Community Foundation, the City of San Bruno, KT Foundation, and numerous other foundations, community organizations, and individuals, we were able to build this memorial. The center of the memorial is a bronze statue, a composite of different images of the 2 of the younger Mochita sisters, made famous by photographs by Dorothea Lange. And so that's the center of the memorial. We also wanted to include every single name of people who were incarcerated there at Tanforan. So using a list of that was hand typed list from 1942 from the War Relocation Authority, as well as combining that with a list developed in 2007 by the National Archives. We came up with a list of 7,984 names, which are all posted on the wall of names. As well as in this photo, you can see the replica horse stall. It's 9 by 12. That's the size of the actual room families had to live in. One of the features of the wall of names is we wanted to make sure that if people brought paper and pencil, they could make a rubbing of their great grandfathers, great grandmothers, relatives, friends. So they would be able to take that away with them when they left. Another feature of the memorial is the granite pavers inscribed by individual donors. This is a picture of our committee here at our grand opening in August of 2022. Cutting the tape is Ben Takeshita. He was a resident of San Mateo, and he ended up in Tanforan, and has been and is an active member of our committee. Yeah, it took a while, 10 years. It was quite a bit of effort, but the committee is very pleased that we're able to get something done that will stand for many years to remind people and to continue to hopefully spur them to recognize that injustice, and that they take steps never to let this happen to anyone. I think that's been one of the main focuses of our committee, and We hope that it lives on. And this shot here is Steve Okamoto, our vice president, speaking at our grand opening. The first 5 or 6 rows are all people who were at Tanforan. I think we had 40 or up to 40, 45 or so survivors. So thank you.
Thank you for all your work, Doug, and certainly seeing that the Tanforan Memorial is a recent memorial and all the work that it took over a decade. So we'd like to move on now to Robin Kawabata, who's with the Hayward Heritage Plaza. Robin?
Yes, thank you. I'll start with a couple of historic photos. This image shows the luggage on Watkins Street in Hayward, taken on May 8th, 1942, the day that the Japanese Americans left from the area bound for the detention center. This street still exists in downtown Hayward. This photo was taken by Dorothea Lange, who was present that day, and took other photos that are, well-known iconic photos. People in the Hayward, San Leandro, San Lorenzo, Castro Valley area, the area is sometimes called Eden Township. That was an old name, but the name is still in use, or sometimes we say Eden, and that's kind of how our JCL chapter got its name. Those people were sent to this Hayward site under Civilian Exclusion Order number 34. This is the Mochita family, who lived in San Leandro and ran a flower nursery. The Eden area, like other communities in the San Francisco Bay Area, had many plant nurseries, cut flowers, or bedding plants, or tree nurseries, or vegetables. And again, this photo is another taken by Dorothea Lange. I'm going to talk about the memorials that we constructed at the Hayward Plaza. First, we'd like to acknowledge the city of Hayward for honoring the communities by including historical and multicultural elements in their newly renovated Hayward Heritage Plaza. These are some photos of the plaza. The first, again, is the Dorothea Lange photo taken in 1942. This is Watkins Street that bounds one of the 4 sides of the plaza. Underneath that is a more recent photo taken in 2017 from Google Street View. It shows the old Hayward Public Library that had been built in around the 1950s, and this is the Watkins Street side, so it's this sort of the same view as the one above it. And this is the current 2023 view of that same street after the plaza had undergone its major renovation. The library that was in the previous photo was demolished and rebuilt, showing on the left side in the blue circle of this photo, that is the new Hayward Public Library. And in the red circle, sort of in the middle of the image, is the current Japanese American Memorial, which is a series of 3 signboards. The art sculpture was too new to be included in this Google image. Next slide, please. So these are the 2 Japanese American memorial The top shows the 3 signs that were funded by the city of Hayward. And in June of 2018, the Japanese community was invited by the city to develop a commemorative marker to be funded by the city. It describes the Japanese American 20th century experience. The dedication and unveiling for this memorial, because it was completed 2 years before it was actually installed. So we had a dedication ceremony. So the dedication took place in 2019, and it was installed in late 2021. It tells the story of the forced removal and incarceration, the wartime military experience, resettlement, and congressional committee investigation that culminated in the presidential apology. We had a team of 8 volunteers, which was led by our project lead, Naomi Shibata. We selected images and developed the marker content. It was endorsed by the National Japanese American Historical Society, the Hayward Area Historical Society, the Eden Township JCL, the Eden Japanese Community Center, and Cal State University of the East Bay. Following the marker's dedication, the city of Hayward invited us to develop a companion art piece, and that is shown on the bottom left. The committee selected artist Patricia Wakita, who worked with the team to develop the art piece. The team also received a JACL Legacy Fund grant to help out with the funding. And the dedication for this art piece was done earlier this year in February of 2023. So the bottom right image shows the proximity of the 2 different memorials. They were 2 different projects, but they were companion art pieces. The art project team consisted of 8 community members, which were slightly different from the initial project team for the first project. Again, we're indebted to the city of Hayward for funding these 2 projects. As mentioned, we also received a grant from the National JACL Legacy Funds grant. The JACL Legacy Fund was created from those individuals who donated their redress monies. The city also plans to support similar projects for the Native American group and the Russell City group, composed primarily of African Americans, and those will also be placed in the Hayward Heritage Plaza. I'm sorry, I'd like to just give a short overview of the art sculpture. It consists of 3 layers. The first layer, or the outer layer, includes the names of the people who were at the site, about 600 people, and has artwork showing the hills surrounding the Hayward area. The middle layer, I'm sorry you can't really see it well on this image, but it depicts greenhouses and flower vines representing the floral industry, juxtaposed with barracks of camp and barbed wire. And the top layer has mon motifs representing unity, peace, US-Japan, and the date May 8th, 1942. So thank you.
Thank you, Robin. I had the privilege of attending a rehearsal for the opening in August, and also going to the Tanforan Memorial, and was very moved by the conversations and the work that has been done there. But there was a gentleman who was a survivor at that practice who talked about a memory of that day of a woman that he said cried the entire time. And he found out that she was crying because she had to leave her dog. And that on the buses, no one spoke. So these are the stories and the real human stories that are involved in all of these remembrances. I'd like to move on and introduce Eileen Yamada Lamphere, who's with the Puyallup Assembly Center. Thank you for your work, Robin.
First of all, I want to thank Doug and Robin for your excellent overview of what happened in 1942 and why these kinds of memorials and are very important, not only to our JA community, but to our general public, because even now there are people who come and say, I never knew that this happened in Washington. So I'm here to represent the Puyallup Valley JACL Remembrance Gallery. And we will be constructing this gallery not only on the site, but inside the site of the largest concentration camp in Washington state. We will be located right where the horse stalls were, that many bachelors and small families were confined anywhere from March of 1942 to September. This has been kind of a long process. It started way back in 1984 with George Tsutakawa building and dedicating Harmony Sculpture. And he built that because his family had been imprisoned there. He was already with the U.S. Army, but his extended family were imprisoned at Puyallup Assembly Center, and he created a beautiful bronze statue. Then we fast forward to 2017, and we had a 75th remembrance of Executive Order 9066, and that brought together over 1,500 survivors, family members, community members, all on the site of the Washington State Fairgrounds. At that time, we also got a Kip Takuta Washington State Civil Liberties Grant, and we were able to develop a DVD, and it was called The Silent Fair. And it started out with an internet introduction by the then CEO of the fairgrounds, marking the importance of recognizing the Puyallup Assembly Center. JACL National has been involved with several of our projects. Once we created the DVD, we realized that there needed to be some context. And so through a legacy fund, we developed 6 banners that we could show, like in the lobby before a showing of the film. We put them in the school foyers and hallways when we were showing the film along with some of the survivors. We also, through a follow-up legacy grant, we developed a student teacher booklet that accompanies the Silent Fair. That Silent Fair is now on our website for everyone to use, and we also provide copies to students and teachers. Fast forward to 2022, the fair said, you know, we've got this empty space that we were going to use for our own fair museum, and it doesn't quite fit. So here's 80 feet. Could you do some kind of name marker? Because that was one of the draws in 2017, was the showing, like many of at Tanforan and at other places, just the massive list of names. So we did that. We said, yes, we will do that. But with 80 feet, now we could tell the whole story, not just show the names, but we can talk about that the discrimination against Japanese did not start on December 7th. That kind of discounts the other previous Asian communities and the discrimination that they encountered. It also provides us an opportunity to show the relevance to today's current climate, unfortunately. So this is our latest renderings of what the Remembrance Gallery will look like. The space underneath was horse stalls that had people in it. On the far right is a little bit of a bump out, and behind that will be what we're calling through line, and it will be filled with technology to tell the story of what happened before, during, and after the war. But it will also be a place that we will use Puyallup as a power of place to tell the story of not just Washington State, but all of the United States. So if you were incarcerated at Thule, you will be able to find something. It might be a story. It might be a picture, a map, a document that represents Thule. If you were in Gila River, then there might be a story that will show what happened in that area. We will also have some interactive maps. So if you really want to know, you could go to that website. Our main part of the gallery is what we're calling Monument. And Monument will showcase the 7,600 plus names that we're able to find. If you find a name, you might be able to touch it and it will backlight for 8 to 10 seconds. If you have a smartphone, you'll be able to take a picture and it will link you up if we have an oral history, or we have a picture or a military record that goes with that person. So it becomes a little bit more interactive. Also, the coating on it will also allow you to do a rubbing. With our design team, they said, yes, it can be done. It could be interactive. We also will be showing this is through line. So you can see a lot of technology, and the team that we have is called Bell and Whistle. And they are a young group of people that technology just comes second nature to them. So there'll be a lot of screens that you can enlarge, you can touch, you can scroll through, lots of links up with other sites such as Tanforan, Stockton, as well as the other forts and permanent camps. The other thing is we are doing a recreation of a horse stall. We're calling it 8x10. And what it will do is within that space, it will be furnished with what it looks like, but it will also have lighting so people can stand in that space and get a sense of day to night, night to day, as well as a searchlight. There will also be speakers. So people in that space could hear the difference between daytime with kids playing outside versus, the opened ceilings. And so now you hear crying babies, you hear snoring. And if you walk in, there will be a place where when you step in, there will be a little woof of, whoa, what does that smell coming from? A little smell-o-vision of the horse manure, because again, it used to be a horse stall. We launched this campaign or fundraising in September of 2022, so a little bit over a year ago. And I'm really glad to say that we have reached the 1,600,000 mark of our 1,850 fundraising goal. One of the things that some of our key supporters, of course, is the National Park Service with the JAX grant. We got funding from the Washington State Legislature, who said, hey, we want this to be shown and told about Washington State, because people think that everybody on the east side of Washington were not affected, but they don't seem to realize that it was because of the support of Eastern Washington, Japanese and non-Japanese, that the west side people were able to come back to the state. The other thing is, on the west side, 60 to 80% of the produce and 50% of the dairy products were from the west side. So now if you're in Spokane, where are you getting your produce? Where are you getting your milk products? So even though you were not forcibly removed, it impacted you, it impacted your family, it impacted the larger community. We got a great Gates grant, which was we're happy that they believed in our project. But I think the most important thing for us is that we have over 275 individual Japanese families and their descendants who said, we believe in this. It's about time Grandma's story is told. It's about time that my family is being recorded. It's about time that it's not just Japanese American history, that this is American history. So I even had one little boy who came up to me at the fair, and he said, "Can I give you my allowance?" And he gave me 50 cents. Oh my gosh, I want to frame that 50 cents because this little boy understands. He's our next generation. So just so you know, we have commitments from the fair that the gallery will be there for 11 years in that site, and it will continue if it needs to be moved. So we will have an opportunity to share out for at least a generation, if not longer. And one of the things that we have committed to the fair is that every single year, there will be something new and different. This will not be a static gallery. There will be new stories, there'll be new maps, new pictures. There were over 125,000 Japanese and Japanese Americans that were imprisoned in various confinement sites. So we will not be lacking for stories to share. So our commitment is going forward, at least for the next generation, there will be something new and relevant for visitors. The other thing, before I forget, is we have a commitment to use the site from the fair for teacher workshops, as well as for field trips for students. Because again, there's nothing more impactful than being on the site to tell the story and also to educate. And as an educator, I know that I can't teach what I don't know. And I don't know if I don't have the opportunity to learn. So that has been our commitment to the educators in the state is we will bring this program to you and invite you to learn about Washington State history and American history. So thank you to Daima for allowing Puyallup Valley to share our vision. Our opening date will be next August of 2024, and we hope to see many of you in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eileen. I know that the Portland Assembly Center and Stockton Assembly Center are in a very different place of organizing and envisioning what we are going to do. So these stories are so inspiring to us. So I'd like to hear a little bit from Steve Sue with the Stockton Assembly Center. Steve? Be sure you unmute. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chisao. A little bit of history of the Stockton Assembly Center. It was one of the 13 that were established. And with a familiar thing with a lot of the assembly centers, they were placed in racetracks. In this case, it was the San Joaquin County Fairgrounds racetrack area. But for 161 days, it was converted and served as an assembly center for about 4,390 evacuees that were taken from San Joaquin County, parts of Stanislaus and Sacramento counties, and into the foothills, predominantly agriculture families or agriculture product-based families. And they were put into 125 horse stalls that were considered as barracks. And they were actually placed on the inside of the racetrack, if you can imagine that. And there was an additional 40 that were placed just on the outside. The facility was fairly self-sustaining. It actually had its own hospital, which which is actually the only surviving building, as many of the barracks were since replaced or torn down. Though I was told by the county that there may be one surviving barrack. So they're going to try to find that for us. But The good thing is the hospital itself will be the building that we are trying to preserve to become a interpretive and museum center for remembrance of this assembly center. A fact, there were over 60 infants that were actually born in this hospital, and which is actually an amazing number for considering it's only been in operation for 161 days. Many of the evacuees either went to Roar, Arkansas, or were taken to Tule Lake. So it's a part of history that we feel really needs to be preserved, as with the other ones and the other projects that have come on, because it is something that cannot be forgotten. I mean, this happened to the Japanese American community. It could very well happen to other communities as well. One of the things about why we want the hospital, again, being one of the only 2 in California structures of all the assembly centers that exist, and this one is by far the largest. It's actually 7,500 square feet. The building itself is pretty much intact. After the war, it was actually turned back to the San Joaquin County Fairgrounds, which had used it up until, well, it's still active today as a maintenance yard, though they have finally started vacating it. So we're on our way. So what are we doing as far as our project? We're actually in the funding stage and development stage. This is a long, arduous process. I believe everybody here knows how long it takes to do that. Our first part is we have to have a feasibility study. And one of the things we did accomplish at this point is that the building has been slated for preservation by the state of California. And it's about to be adopted by the California State Parks, as the state park noticed that they have no state park facilities in Central California, and this would be the furthest south they've ever had one. So that's a good thing going for us. We are applying for a JAX grant, and also through the National Park Service, as well as getting donations. We have currently just started the donation process, and we've already been able to raise over $25,000 in a very short time. But a lot needs to be done. The estimate of conversion of this entire building is roughly about $3.5 to $4 million. And that includes the 5 acres of land surrounding it, which the state has said that would be good to be used for other things, because they are kind of suggesting to us that we do not only an indoor display, but also an outdoor walkthrough display as they enter. One of the things we will have, if we can locate that one barrack, it will be preserved and placed inside the building. The building itself will actually be multi-use, because we will be actually occupying at least half of the building, if not a little bit more. The remaining area will actually be used as a community center with offices for other local community minority groups, such as we have a Chinese Benevolent Association, we have the Filipino American National Historical Society is looking for offices, and other related organizations will be using it. It's going to be a lofty goal. We're probably not going to see the opening for at least 5 years, but the thing that did get fast-tracked was the handover of the building, because it was a county building, and the county had to transfer the building back to the state, so the state could transfer it back to being used as a museum site. And a lot of that has already gone through it in an amazingly short time. In fact, I think it was about 4 months, which is unheard of for the state of California. But that's where we're at right now. I just wish we're going to be as successful as Tanforan was with their project. I think that was an amazing project. If you have not seen that, I'm looking forward to the one in Portland, and also in Puyallup. I think those are going to be amazing projects that everybody should see. The main reason the state wants us to do a feasibility study is really looking at how we're going to do it. How is this building going to be utilized in 5, 10, 15 years? We do see it as a major educational destination for many of the public schools, especially as California starts to make the internment experience as part of the curriculum. And it's going to be a larger part of the curriculum at this point. And we're just hoping it continues to grow. And we're getting a lot of assistance, a lot of advice, good advice from the Japanese National Historical Society and the museum, also with various JECL groups. And I'll be contacting the Tanforan group for a little assistance on this. And because it is a project that should be shared by everybody. And it's not going to be just the Stockton JECL. We're involving other JECL groups like the Lodi JECL and the French Camp JECL. Little bit of side history on the building. The building was actually built as a convention museum area for the Future Farmers of America. And the thing was, one of the major donors of the building was the Yamada family. So it has Japanese roots going all the way to its beginning. So we'll be incorporating that part of the history, as well as the present history of how it became and its utilization by the county. And thank you, Chisao, and back to you.
Thank you so much. It's inspiring to hear all of the work and where the various centers are at. I'm going to share with you a little bit about the Portland Assembly Center. It was originally called the Portland Livestock Exposition Hall. And like the other sites, they were racetracks or animal stalls. Here's a picture where you see the stalls being built right on top of what were formerly animal stalls. There was approximately 4,000 people that were brought from not only Portland, but some parts of Washington, but primarily from the center of Portland, now known as the Historic District, Old Town, where people lived in an area called Nihonmachi, or Japantown. At the time in 1941 and 42, we had approximately 36 Japantowns along the West Coast. And they were important and primary places that we lived, partly because of redlining. We didn't have choices to live other places, but it was a community. And it was a community where we had schools and churches and businesses and doctors and lawyers and places to support each other. So at our museum, we continue to lift up this history of the Portland Assembly Center, and we're involved in a 2-year process now. It's been about 4 years, but 2 years, I'll explain that a little bit later. But I wanted to mention that on May 5th in 1942, one of the papers here in Oregon, known as the Oregon Journal, was proudly claimed Portland as the first Jap-free city on the West Coast. And that is the history that was leading up to the Assembly Center of racism and prejudice throughout the West Coast. It was not just this isolated time period. There were many laws that affected people becoming married, owning land, becoming citizens. And so this history becomes very important to us to maintain. We'd like to see a interpretive center there. We first activated the Hall A, which was known as Hall A, B, and C, but mostly Hall A at the Expo Center, which is now owned by Metro. And we had an event there. This is the 2017 event, but in 1979, we had our first Day of Remembrance. And that was really when the community began to talk about the trauma of the incarceration and the Assembly Center. And we came in second after Puyallup, which was the first Day of Remembrance, and many of the people that organized the Puyallup Day of Remembrance, then came down to Portland and helped us organize our Day of Remembrance all the way to the passage of the bill in 1988. In 2017, which is the picture you're seeing here, we had the 75th anniversary commemorating the Executive Order 9066. You see, Lawson was a poet laureate of Oregon, and we did a community performance here, and a lot of community people and young people were involved in creating what project I started called Remember Us. And it began as a tag project inspired by Wendy Maruyama's work with her tag projects. But this was a community engagement project where we sent out the tags to churches and schools so people could remember and write down people's names, their numbers, and understand and relate to history in this way. The rope ended up being about 36 feet long, and we carried it at the end. So the first picture was the beginning of the event, and the processional memorial carrying of this rope was at the end of the event. So here we are in 2023, looking at a process that the 53 acres of land has been purchased by the city and government entities. So this 2-year process that we went through really looked at what was important and included a community process. And it ended up asking for proposals. The community proposal that we submitted, which included not only the Japanese American community, the Japanese American Museum of Oregon, but Vanport, which was a city that was constructed very near to where the Assembly Center was. So what is now where we are now is in this beginning of a 2-year process where we're looking at and working with the city on how can we memorialize, how can we remember not only the Japanese American experience in history at the Assembly Center, but also the African American and Indigenous, the cultural histories that have been impacted. And how can this space better serve our communities, not only in interpretive history, but maybe in future community gathering spaces or places where we can come together in dialogue or share information, share our histories. One of the things that was primary in the lifting up of the Assembly Center back in 1979. I'm not sure the year that it was dedicated, but you're seeing a picture here of what's called the Gates of Remembrance, and the artist, whose name is Valerie Otani, created this Gates of Remembrance, which hold these beautiful metal tags, which represent the same tags that everyone was required to wear and the number that they were given, and the Torii Gate. And so these are now taken down and they're being refurbished, and we're hoping that they will be put back up in 2025. The light rail are our main transportation system directly from Old Town into the Expo Center, which is something that we're looking forward to. So we have a long way to go in Portland, but are certainly inspired greatly by all of the stories we're hearing here, all of the work that's being done, all of the funds that have been raised, the communities that have been mobilized, and the need for continuing to tell not only this story as a Japanese American story, but an American story. So I just like to open this up to our panel for the last 5 minutes or so to just say, what is important about doing this work now? How has it been important to you? Why must we carry on? We know that our legacy that's been passed on by the Issei, or the first generation, in the statement through Kodomo no Tamani, which is for the sake of our children. This is something that I think genetically we carry as Japanese Americans. So I'm just going to open it up to anyone who'd like to share. You could take your mics off, and let's just have a few moments of combined conversation. Why now? Why is this important? What has this work meant to you?
Why now is because it's been 81 years and we're little by little, day by day, losing our survivors. And if we don't do it now, then it'll only be secondary. And for us, as we've been sharing out in the community, having the few survivors who are willing and able, that's the strength. That is the inspiration. That's the resilience. And that's who we're doing it for. And again, it's not just for our JA community. I mean, you're preaching to the choir. It's for other people. You know, for us in Puyallup, so few of our people that were incarcerated at Puyallup Assembly Center actually came back to the area, right? And if we were to do a poll of our JA community right now, they had different wartime experiences elsewhere. They were in Arkansas, they were in Utah, Colorado. So personally, one of my goals would be as we continue to refine the Remembrance Gallery and truly tell the whole story, is that it becomes a destination place, not just for the people from Alaska and Seattle and some of the smaller areas in Pierce County, but that throughout the state, those that were in Moses Lake, those that are in Colville, you know, there's something in the gallery that speaks to them, and those that were in California, you know, that they come up and somehow, somewhere, we are telling your story, the site story, the family story, and it truly becomes a destination spot. Will it be that way next year? Of course not, but that is something that we hope to evolve to be, that it is a destination spot for our JA community.
And it truly is an American story. So
Yes.
even for those east of the Mississippi, as I
Right.
say, it's part of what should be taught in the schools, what should be included in the curriculum. Anyone else would like to add a few last comments? Doug or Steve or Robin?
Well, I'd just like to echo Eileen's comment about how even today people encounter the memorial or the efforts to build a memorial, and they say, gee, I didn't even know this happened here.
Mhm.
You know, and it's unfortunately, it's common, that kind of lack of knowledge. It's not their fault, but it's the systems and the school systems and the educational system that does not recognize it and doesn't talk about it. Probably, well, if we're in Florida, well, wouldn't be happening at all. But it's just, I think that memorials work not only with the people who actually went there, who are the biggest inspiration and the reason why we push so hard to get this thing done, and their family members, extended family, friends, but it's also for people who are out there that we don't even know that are affected by it. And we'll say, you know, we just got an email that it's been open a year. We just got an email out of the blue from some woman. I forget her name, her last name. Anyway, she said her father-in-law, who was like an Irish American, talked about his experience. Well, when he was dying, and one of the memories that came up to him that he related to his family was that when he was 6 years old, living in San Bruno, he had a friend, and his friend's name was Frankie, Japanese American, and the whole family was taken away in April, so he couldn't understand that. His father actually took him to visit the family or, as much as they could visit through the fence. And I think that this that experience stayed with this young boy all throughout his life, and opened his eyes to what injustice is, and it helped change and deepen his understanding of what injustice and what justice is. And he related this on his deathbed.
Wow.
So it's just things like that we can't even anticipate.
Mhm.
But the fact that we get it done, get this memorial done, and it stays there, and it's going to continue long after all of us are going to be gone, that'll work in ways that we trust and hope that will make this country a better country than it is now. Because we all know we need some help in this country. So anyway, my 2 cents.
Thank you so much. As we continue on, Robin or Steve, do you have
Well,
any add?
one thing that I thought was good about having it at a debarkation site is because it affects the local people.
Mm.
And people sometimes can relate more to something that has happened right in their neighborhood.
Mhm.
And this is right in their city or their neighboring city, but it's very close to them, and it just might have a greater effect or influence on how they view and understand what happened.
I'm going to guess that we're all Sansei.
Mhm.
Are we all Sansei? Oh no, you're not Sansei. You're
No, I'm married to a Sansei woman.
okay. So we
But
really
yeah, I mean, everybody here has pretty much hit the nail on the head. But the one thing I've noticed that which makes these projects more important is that if you look at a lot of the sites where the assembly centers are, most of the time all you see is a plaque, and
Right.
it's not it's just a plaque that most people will glance at for maybe
Mhm.
a half a second. Some people may take 10 seconds to read it, but then it gets easily forgotten.
Yeah.
Having these physical things that people can see, touch,
Mhm.
experience, those make a big meaning, and it really puts the impact on you more. It makes people want to look more into it, makes people want to really research better and get a more of an understanding. And this doesn't go, like somebody had mentioned, it doesn't go just for the Japanese American experience, but it goes for all other ethnicities. I mean, you look at, some people were asking me about why it's important to have this. I said, well, look at it this way. From an educational standpoint, in California, we have what's called the California Mission Project.
Mhm.
And you guys went to school, had to go, and you had to physically visit 2 or 3 different missions.
Mhm.
And those missions have been set up. A lot of them are reserved, and they go and they see what these are like. With
Mhm.
these sites, again, they're going to be able to see, touch, and in some cases smell what the experience was. And I think making these sites accessible is the main thing, because there are a lot of people that can't go. I think right now, like the people just know of the Los Angeles National Historical Museum and the San Jose Museum, but a lot of people, that's kind of hard. I have relatives in Fresno. They said there's no way they could get out there.
Mhm.
And having this in Stockton, then, and again, bringing that thing that, yeah, it did happen throughout the state and all through the West Coast, actually.
Well, I want to thank all of you for participating today, your time, your energy, and years, and sometimes decades of work to make sure that the history of the assembly centers and the heritage parks and whatever monuments or memorials, as we have seen them being lifted up and led by Japanese Americans continue. So thank you again for your time, and please contact the Japanese American Museum of Oregon. We're here in Portland. Come and see us. We'll try to stay in touch and inspire each other in
Mhm.
all of the work that we're doing going forward. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.